Welcome back to another episode of the 3D podcast with your host Rashab and Gabe. We got a fun one today, Gabe. We're going to be talking about the mid-season playoff bracket and predictions.
Well, you know I'm excited.
Yeah, a couple of assumptions and a couple of takeaways I want to give the viewers before we start. We're going to assume that everybody's healthy. Everyone who's expected to be healthy come the start of the playoffs is healthy. The second thing we're going to assume is that these brackets are done as of the All Star break. So we know this video is going to go live after the season has already resumed. We're not factoring in the results of the day of the video. We're assuming that the standings were as they were at the All Star break. So 1 through 8 is going to be what the All Star break standings were. So we'll start with the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference this year looks so exciting. The series, just all the teams in the playoffs, everybody's kind of good, even the lower seeded team. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's start with what I think is going to be the best 1-8 series ever in Miami versus Brooklyn. Miami is the 1 seed, Brooklyn versus the 8 seed. What do you got?
All right, so actually have the Heat coming out of this one in 6. Now I know
Oh,
Brooklyn is still, I
Miami.
guess, the
Okay.
Vegas favorite and everything, but I think the Heat are a 1 seed right now for a reason. They've dealt with several injuries and they've managed to quickly adjust, fill in starters with role players, and really been able to make it mesh. So I think overall they have a good team dynamic there. Everybody understands their roles, the culture fits, and I actually think they match up better with Brooklyn. Like given that they have experience, they've gone to the finals before, and they have a lot of continuity on their roster while also adding in Kyle Lowry. My issue with Brooklyn is they're still a pretty new team. We don't know what we're getting with them, and I don't really think Ben Simmons is that good or that much of a difference maker in the playoffs, especially as we've seen him play versus the Hawks last year. But I just personally think that the Heat match up better against Brooklyn, and I think with Brooklyn specifically, if there's like clashing, culture clashing, or emotions clashing, I think that situation can really derail quicker than people think. So it's not necessarily that I don't think they have enough talent to beat the Heat. I just think the Heat are a better team altogether. And even coaching wise, I think Spolstra is a much better coach than Steve Nash.
So I really thought you'd pick Brooklyn, but I actually have Miami winning the series in a closely contested 7 games. So Miami is top 10 rated in both offensive rating and defensive rating. And Miami already plays at a really slow pace. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where you said they're more of a cohesive unit.
Yep.
I trust Miami more as a team than I do Brooklyn. With Brooklyn, we still don't know what we're going to get. KD, Kyrie, Ben, and the pieces. We don't know how they're all going to mesh. We don't know what style they're going to play. We don't know. There's just a lot of unknowns with Brooklyn versus with Miami. You've kind of seen what you've gotten all year that's gotten them to the number 1 seed at this point. Miami already plays at a really slow pace. I think they're ranked 30th in the league in pace. That's mimics kind of like what the playoffs are all about when the game slows down and you kind of have to play in a half court set offense.
Yep.
Miami forces their teams into a lot of turnovers. I don't know. I just think it's a matchup nightmare for Brooklyn. Like,
I do. And I think the pace comment that you made, I think that's a big deal. That if they are, I guess, dictating the pace and they can play at the 30th ranked pace, they essentially control how they want the game to be played and how Brooklyn's going to have to beat them.
yep. And I think like KD's going to be coming off an injury. It's fair to say that KD's been injured quite a bit since his tenure with Golden State. Like he's had the Achilles, obviously. Now he's got foot injuries. He's missed chunks here and there, and he's getting up there in age. I mean, I don't know. I just think Bam is a good defender to put on KD.
Hmm.
They got PJ Tucker there. Kyle Lowry can guard Kyrie as well as anyone can.
Yep.
I
And for
just
what it's worth, Oladipo should be back as well too.
Yeah, and then they got shooting in Duncan Robinson and Strus. I think it's Max Strus. Like Miami's got the pieces. It's a very well built roster that's more than just the sum of its parts. I think the only thing Miami needs to worry about is their offense in the clutch. Jimmy Butler's had a down year in terms of his clutch offense. They just haven't been as well as they usually are down the stretch. But if Miami can control the pace, play at their pace, they guard really well. There are a bunch of bulldogs over there. I don't know. I can't see Brooklyn winning this series. I think yeah, Brooklyn has improved at the trade deadline because they should have a team that's committed to winning. But I don't know. I got Miami in 7. I just think they're the better team. I think they're a more cohesive unit, and I think that matters. I think chemistry matters in the playoffs, especially when the margins are thin, and they're just more of a team than Brooklyn is
Yeah.
at this point. So I got Miami in 7. All right, let's talk about the 2-7 series. Another great one. A lot closer than the standings suggest. We got Chicago as the 2 seed versus Toronto as the 7 seed. What's your prediction?
So I actually don't think this is going to be that close of a series at all. I have the Bulls beating the Raptors in 5. Now,
5?
yeah, it's 5. And
Wow.
mainly,
No.
let me start. Mainly, it's
No, no,
because
no, 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 no way.
no, I think the Bulls have a much better roster than the Raptors do. And specifically for DeMar DeRozan, I think there's definitely a little bit of animosity from the franchise trading him before winning a championship without him. I think this is going to be definitely a prove it series for him if this ever ends up matching up. And I do think he's a much better player now than he was when he left Toronto. And I think this is a great opportunity for him to really showcase that, and really beat a team that, let's be real, I think the Bulls should be able to beat Toronto on paper. And I think it only goes 5 games. And even specifically with Toronto playing in Canada, like, I don't think there's much of a home court advantage there, especially if it's limited capacity. And just in general, I think it's usually tough beating Toronto. And I don't even think they have the roster really to compete with the Bulls. Like, at center, they're outmatched. The backcourt, they're outmatched. Yeah, I just think this is the year for the Bulls to definitely make it at least past the first round.
So I went back and forth on this a lot. I don't think it's going to be a 5 game series. I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than that. My prediction is Bulls in 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raptors won. I think the Bulls have won a lot of close games this year. Their margin of victory suggests that they're closer to a 5th seed than they are a 2nd seed in the East. They're winning games by very thin margins and kind of winning in the clutch. And I think that when you're in the playoffs, those things can go against you just as much as they can go in your favor. They can also go against you. So the matchup is a lot closer than the standings suggest. And I think Toronto plays kind of like a blitz defense. Like they try to wreak havoc on defense. They got long limb defenders. They try to switch
Mm-hmm.
everything. They're first in the league in forcing their opponents into turnovers. So I think if Toronto can get out and run and force Chicago into a lot of turnovers, and Chicago doesn't take care of the ball, I think the Raptors give themselves a good chance. Assuming Lonzo Ball and Caruso are healthy with Fred VanVleet as the point of attack, I think Chicago's backcourt or Chicago's guards are very well equipped to deal with the Raptors from a defensive standpoint. I do think Chicago has the advantage at the big man's position. The Raptors are pretty, scarce at the big man position,
Mm-hmm.
so I think Vooch is going to feast. And the thing that made me pick the Bulls at the end of the day was the top end talent. I think that's what wins in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Between Vooch, Levine, and DeRozan compared to the Raptors guys at Siakam, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, I just don't think. I think Chicago's got the better talent, so I had them winning. But I do think it's going to be a closer. It's not 5 is pushing it. I think it's going to be 7, and
So
and I do think the Raptors have a chance. They can win.
I don't really think they do have much of a chance. And just on the margin of victory, I don't think winning close games is that, I guess, crippling to say that the Bulls should be worse than they are. Like, they are almost 20 games over 500. But realistically, I think for those close games, they found a way to really perform in the clutch. And it's not necessarily that they can flip either way. It's just, I think the Bulls have better execution, and they have guys who can create their own shot, especially with DeMar and Zach LaVine. Plus, they also move the ball pretty well as well. And I just don't think the Raptors have those kind of clutch players to really compete with them if the game is close down to the wire.
I think in the regular season, Demar's been pretty clutch, but I think we all know of his playoff history, and he's had his fair share of struggles in the past in the clutch in the playoffs. So
I
I'll
mean,
believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. But I also think that like I said, I think the margin of victory is kind of a telling stat in the sense that those things can very likely get just as likely go against you as they can go for you. So if they're winning all these close games, that can very easily in the playoffs that can be decided by a loose ball, a bad
yep.
call. Like if it's a close series where the teams are somewhat equal, where I think, in my opinion, the stats suggest that Toronto is a lot closer to Chicago than the standings indicate. Those type of little things can be the difference between winning a game or turning a series or going up 3-1 instead of the series being 2-2, and now all of a sudden you're in a predicament. So I don't know. Like I think that's a telling stat, and which is why I think it's going to be a closer series. I still think Chicago wins in 7, but I like Toronto's got a chance, a legitimate chance to win and upset Chicago as the 2 seed.
Just to touch on that, I don't think it's fair calling DeMar DeRozan a playoff choker.
He's a
If
choker. He's a
but
choker.
his all of his
Everybody knows I don't
downfalls are
like
to
Demar.
LeBron James.
Everybody knows I don't like Demar. He's a choker.
All of his downfalls are to LeBron James. Let's see if it happens this year,
He
because
didn't play well when the Raptors won either. So, anyways, okay,
I mean they won.
not because of him. it,
they
it
won.
wasn't He wasn't the reason why. So, anyways, okay, another good series. Like the first round in the East this year, just it's good series after good series. We got Philly as the third seed versus Boston, the Celtics as the sixth seed. Who you got?
I have the Sixers sweeping the series.
Sweep it? Oh,
Sweeping.
oh,
So
we're going
I
for
don't think
bold
the
takes today.
Celtics are a very good team. They're obviously hot, but they cannot guard Joel Embiid. And I'm pretty sure last year we saw that they couldn't do anything with him. Now that the Sixers have another offensive piece with them with James Harden, I think there's a huge talent gap there between superstars on both teams. And we've seen when the Celtics just no show in the playoffs, it all just falters for them and they just lose essentially like every game, right? They've had issues with Tatum and Brown on chemistry this year. Obviously, not now. Now they've been winning a ton. But as teammates, they've had issues. Like I remember earlier, Marcus Smart was saying they need to pass the ball more. And I think Philadelphia will definitely expose Boston for what it is. Like other than Williams, they don't have any other size down there. And if Embiid gets that guy in foul trouble, I think the series is over in sweep.
So I agree with you that the Sixers are going to win. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think it's going to be 6 games. And the reason why is I think Boston is much improved. So since the new year, I think Boston's ranked number one in the league in defense,
Yep.
which is huge. I think that's a massive telling stat for giving yourself a chance in any series if you're a good defensive team. Brown and Tatum have started to click. I think some of their early season woes are kind of overblown. They're not. It's not as bad as the media portrayed it to be. They're playing a lot better together now or since the new year than they were previously. They're maturing. Their games are kind of coming into their own. I think Boston's defense alone wins them a couple games. I think you're right that Joel Embiid's going to feast. Joel Embiid, big time MVP candidate this year, amazing season.
Hmm.
He looks like he's in the best shape of his career.
Yep.
But I think we've discussed this before, maybe not on the pod. Embiid can't stay healthy for a playoff series.
That's
If
right. Yeah.
Embiid if Embiid starts to miss some time, whether it's for a little nicks here or a knee thing here, a foot thing here, whatever it is, he misses a game or two. Philly gave away some depth in that James Harden trade, and they're gonna need James Harden to go Houston James Harden mode, like nuclear, isolation, dribble, 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 put up 40 points on 35 shots. I
I
think
think he's
Boston's
capable of
defense,
that.
yeah, but I think Boston's defense is built to handle that. And I think that their defense gives them a chance, and their defense is going to win them at least 2 games. So I got the Sixers in 6. I still think Philly's the better team,
You know what?
but
The only way I'd give Boston a game is if Joel Embiid actually does miss a game here and there because of an injury. But I still think it's a sweep.
oh, no, I can't go that far. Boston's defense is really good, and they're much improved on offense. I got to give them a game or two. It'll be somewhat competitive. And you know what? I say 6. I still think it'll be a close 6. I don't think there might be one game that's a blowout. I think the other games are all going to be pretty close. I think Doc Rivers is an overrated coach. I want to get that on record.
Hmm.
And I think Boston I think they have Udoka as their coach.
Yeah.
Ime Udoka. He's a rookie coach, so I think he has a learning curve to go through in the playoffs. But as long as they can keep defending the way they've been defending, they have a chance. So
Okay.
I got Philly in 6. All right, we'll talk about the 4-5. This is the one that I actually personally think is the least interesting. But what's your prediction?
For this one, I think it's Bucks in 6, and I was leaning on Bucks in 7, only because I feel like this is more like a tune-up series for them. And just the way Cleveland is set up, I think it's a very annoying team for Giannis to go with because I feel like their front court actually sort of has the size to make it, a little bit more difficult for him. But I think other than that, like Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and even the role players are really stepping up. Like Bobby Portis is hitting threes at a high clip. Grayson Allen is doing his thing, even though he's pretty much just taking out the other team through injury. I think the Bucks will maybe let this one slide a bit. It'll be like a 2-2 series until they actually kick it up a gear and then just close them out in 6.
Okay, kind of in agreement with that. I got the Bucks in 5. I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think the Bucks win the first two. They lose the third one. They win the fourth one. They win the fifth one. Look, Cleveland deserves credit for how their season's gone. They've played great. They're doing a good job of building that team over there. The losses of Ricky Rubio, Colin Sexton hurt. Karis LeVert still kind of has to get integrated into that team and what they're doing, and they kind of have to figure out his role.
Yeah.
But I do think that the one game they win, Cleveland's front line is designed to give a guy like Giannis trouble.
It
You got
is. It is.
Evan
Yeah.
Mobley with length. You got Jared Allen with length. I just think that Giannis is going to have to work a little bit harder than he'd like to in a first round series, which is why I'm giving Cleveland a game.
I
But,
think
you
this is
know,
one of those series where they might lean on Chris Middleton more, where you don't necessarily need Giannis to go nuclear.
yeah, I agree. Hey, you know what? Cleveland's got some wing defenders, man.
They do.
So I think like because of their length, they can give Milwaukee some trouble. But I just think Milwaukee's on a mission. Giannis is going to want to win another championship for his legacy and
Hmm.
his place amongst the all-time greats. They're too talented. Budenholzer has the experience of getting through the playoffs now after a long career of playoff struggles. I still think it's Bucks in five. I'll give one to Cleveland just because their front court gives Giannis a little bit of trouble and they're desperate to win a game. So Cleveland gets one, and then I think Milwaukee turns it back up, and it's a 4-1 series for Milwaukee. So Bucks in
Yeah.
five.
Yeah. We're in agreement there.
Okay, so I think that's the first round. I think we have the same teams winning every series, so that would mean our bracket for the second round is Miami as the 1 seed versus Milwaukee as the 5 seed.
Correct.
So and then Chicago Philly. So let's talk about Miami Bucks first. So who do you got in that series? That's a good one.
That should be.
I think this is the third year in a row, right? If it plays out.
It will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks would take them in six, and I just think last year was very telling, and I don't think the Heat can actually guard Giannis. Like Bam, I believe if I was right, Bam was injured slightly like last playoff run. Like there, he
I
wasn't
think he had a shoulder
100%.
injury. Just
Yeah,
shoulder injury or something? Yeah.
but I just think like it looks like the Bucks are not even trying, and when they've actually played them in the regular season, they've actually showed up to play these teams because I remember they ran through Miami once this year, and I just think that you can't really do anything with Giannis, and I don't think Bam alone can even slow him down. Like I think the Cleveland front court would be better to try and slow him down, but yeah, like we said before, I think the Bucks are on a mission. I think they just have the Heat's number. Like I know Giannis, it's not like the Heat can maybe steal a win. They already had that 2 years ago where they beat the Bucks. Now, like they obviously swept them, but I don't. I think Giannis still knows that, and they're not going to take them lightly, and they're going to make sure they get the job done.
So I agree with pretty much everything you said. I have the Bucks in seven. I think it's a great series. I think it
Yeah,
goes the distance. But I just think that Giannis is such a monster, and Miami just doesn't have the size to deal with him. Like, let's say a couple games, Bam picks up 2 quick fouls. Now what? Who's guarding Giannis? They don't have anyone. They
exactly.
have no one outside of Bam to guard. Like Middleton's gonna have a hard time in this series with Miami's wing defenders. I think Drew Holiday and Kyle Lowry is a matchup to watch. It could be the key matchup of the series. But Drew's having a great, like low key, great season. He's been playing really well.
He's an elite defender too.
Elite defender. I think he's very well suited to guard. Like both these teams got bodies to throw at each other to guard
So
each team's offensive players. I think the difference maker is Giannis. I think that
I think
Miami
so
doesn't have the
too.
size.
The Heat want to play a slow paced game. I think Milwaukee outsizes them completely. Like they just added Serge Ibaka to their team. Brooke Lopez should be back. Like it's going to be difficult scoring buckets in the half court against the Bucks.
I pretty much agree with everything you say. I think Giannis is the difference maker. Miami's not going to have an answer for Giannis, and you can't rely on Bam to stop. Like, I don't think there's a way to stop Giannis, and you can't rely on Bam to guard Giannis for 7 games in an entire series and contain him on his own. And I
Yeah,
just don't think Miami has the pieces to do it. So, for that reason, closely contested 7 game series, Bucks in seven. Great series, though, for the trifecta of this series, I guess, third year in a row.
yeah, the trilogy.
The trilogy. That's the word I was looking for. The trilogy. Okay. All right. Chicago, Philly.
Okay, here we go. Bulls in seven.
No. Okay.
No, no,
Okay.
I'm not even kidding. I think the Bulls, from
What?
a roster perspective, are better. Obviously, the two stars are much better, but from like a 5-on-5, I think the Bulls are the better team. And I don't think like Embiid's obviously playing at an MVP level. I don't think Vucevic is that bad, and he's good at drawing contact and getting to the line as well. I don't think it's a terrible matchup, but I do think the Bulls have better closers or better, I guess, shot creators with Levine and DeMar versus just one on Harden.
Better. So you think Levine and Demar are better shot creators than Harden and Joel Embiid?
Well, you can
Really?
game plan for that. You could pick to, I guess, shut down one. Like if I was personally the Bulls, I would want to frustrate James Harden and let Joel Embiid match up against Vucevic and have him just if he's going to torch the Bulls, he let him do it. But that'll frustrate James Harden, and we all know he doesn't really necessarily cope well with that. Similar to what Kobe said years ago, if you're, I guess, the guy under contract or looking to get the contract, someone else has a contract.
Okay, so you're gonna try to use Harden's like selfishness against him and try
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
him pissed off and frustrated. Okay, I mean that's not a bad strategy, but I think you're doing that. That's a desperation strategy. Like I don't know how much that. So I got Philly in 5. I don't think this series is
You don't think it's
particularly
close?
close. I don't think it's close. I don't think Chicago is gonna have a tough time stopping Embiid. First of all, he's going to demolish Vooch,
I mean,
and
just to get this out there,
he's going
DeMar
to
is no more of
demolish
a playoff
Vooch.
choker than Embiid is
Okay, yes, he is. Embiid plays well in the playoffs, and Demar doesn't.
when he's there.
Embiid's game translates to the playoffs, and Demar's doesn't.
I just think the Bulls match up well against the Sixers.
Uh, it's not that. I just think the Sixers are like significantly more talented. Significantly more talented. Like Embiid is going to demolish Vooch. They're gonna have to struggle by
I think
putting
that's a lot
Lonzo.
closer than you think. I don't think it's going to be that one sided.
I think they're gonna struggle with having Lonzo and Caruso guard Harden. Someone's got to guard Tobias Harris, who can still get you 20, 18 to 20 a game in the playoffs.
Tobias Harris
They got
hasn't been that good.
Matisse Thybulle. He's like their third or fourth option on off.
Yeah,
They
no,
gotta
yeah.
guard they gotta guard Maxi. They gotta guard Harden. They gotta guard Tobias Harris. They gotta guard Joel. Philly's talent is just better. Philly's just a better team talent wise, and I think you have Tybalt to guard Levine or DeRozan, whichever one's hotter. You can put Maxi on the other one and let Maxi like burn some of his energy running around chasing Levine or guarding DeMar in post ups or whatever. Both Levine and DeRozan have an advantage on Maxi in terms of that matchup, but I just think Embiid and Harden are going to be such nightmares for Chicago to guard, and it's I don't think this series is going to be close. Philly in 5. I just think
Okay.
Philly's a significantly more talented team, and Chicago doesn't have the pieces. Chicago's just in my like I think it's clear. I just don't think Chicago's as good as their record indicates. I think they're closer to a fifth seed than they are a second seed. Philly's just a better team. They're more talented. They're gonna have time to gel, and Embiid's gonna be unguardable in that series. Like just he's gonna have a field day, get whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Chicago's gonna be in foul trouble. It's not gonna be an interesting series. I think Philly makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals pretty easily.
Wow. I definitely don't see it. Like I don't think Embiid is as unguardable as you're saying, but
In this series, he
I
is.
think that's the series we're gonna get, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I can't wait. Like I've been saying it all along. The East is just it's going to be a really fun year in the East this year. Okay, so that gets us to the Eastern Conference Finals. We have different Eastern Conference Finals, so I'll go first. Or no, actually,
Sure.
you know what? You go first. You go first. So you have the Bucks
Yep.
and the Bulls, right?
Yep. I have the Bucks taking the Bulls in 6.
Okay.
Much similar to I guess how you take the Embiid take, how he's going to dominate. I think Giannis actually will dominate the Bulls, and he's just a much more versatile player. Yeah, it's just the Bucks side. The way they've constructed the roster, I just really like it, and I think they're just a better equipped team to win. To be honest.
So I agree with that. I don't think Chicago's making it. For me, the Eastern Conference Finals is Bucks Philly. I
Hmm.
got Bucks in 7. I think it's a close series. I think Embiid is a tougher matchup for Giannis, especially when Embiid's in shape like he is this year. His cardio's improved. He looks a little bit leaner than he has in years past. Not significantly leaner, but
Yep.
just a little bit leaner. I think that's going to help him, help his durability, help his stamina in game, sort of have him be available on the floor, not picking up cheap fouls and things like that. But
Yeah.
I just think Milwaukee's roster is so complete top to bottom. They got the defense. Like I think what people don't understand, Drew Holiday, two-way player, Chris Middleton, two-way player, Giannis is MVP and defensive player of the year all in one package.
Yeah.
Like
Just to add on the series, like if you think it's Philly and the Bucks, I don't think Embiid and Giannis is even close. Like understand, like the last game they played, Philly beat them, and then all the media was like, "Oh, what's Giannis going to do with Embiid?" But like, I think we all have a short-term memory where last year Embiid was absolutely cooking him on the glass, points, bullying his way through. Where Shaq was
you
even
mean you
calling
mean
Embiid
you
soft.
mean Giannis was bullying him.
Exactly last year. It wasn't even close, and now all of a
Yeah,
sudden
yeah.
this year they're saying Embiid's too big. I actually think Giannis is in much better shape, and I can trust on
Giannis is
him
a
more.
freak,
Yeah,
hundred
I could
percent.
I could trust him to be there, and just on like effort, being in shape, and physical ability, I could trust him to outduel Embiid.
Yeah, I really like the Bucks. I think Giannis wins that matchup. I think it's closer than what you think. I think Embiid's improved this year, much improved, and that's solely based on his conditioning, physical
And,
shape.
and just to touch, the reason why I think it's even if like they beat the Bulls like you had predicted, I think that series is a lot closer, and that's going to be like a real fight there. And I don't know Embiid's ability to really show up in the Eastern Conference Finals, third playoff round. How in shape is he really? I get he's lost the
Yeah,
weight, but he
well,
still looks like a big guy.
he is a big guy,
Yeah,
100%. He's a big guy, and I think that's the interesting thing that we'll have to watch and see. Like we've never had Embiid make a long playoff push in his career, so if that happens this year, it'll be the first time, and we'll all have to see how long can he hold up. We know he has his fair share of injury history, and how long can he hold up? Can his body hold up in a grueling, long playoff run where this East is deep? He's gonna have to play in every game. Every series is gonna be a challenge.
yeah.
There's gonna be like
Like
there's no
I feel the
cakewalk. There's
teams
no
that can finish series out earlier, they actually have a real advantage because now it's going to be more of an incentive to actually get the extra time off you'll need because a lot of this
yeah
stuff it could
yep
go the distance.
yeah. A lot of these series are gonna be longer than 4 games. I don't think I have a sweep. Yeah, I don't have a sweep in any of the series. So
Just the
it's just
Celtics for me.
it's a deep Eastern Conference this year. Yeah, just Celtics for you. It's a deep Eastern Conference this year. So
Yep,
I think that that's going to be an interesting storyline to see how that plays out. So we both got the Bucks repeating as the Eastern Conference finalists and going back to the finals.
that is correct.
Okay. All right. So, and that's the East. That's our Eastern Conference playoff bracket.